What is wrong with the Boston Celtics? How many things are wrong with the Boston Celtics? Is anything wrong with the Boston Celtics? Lots of questions there. We're going to try to answer them right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Yup. Beantown, be ever ready. Recognize the city of champs. Back to back, if I say it, it's stamped. Locked on number 19, the best one, the next one. Juice loose in your pool now for the next run. It's the C's, who else could it be? What they gon' say now? Screaming like JT, Karalis, recap the madness. Every game, every practice. Best daily pod, no cap like Brad Beckett. Clutch like Drew to KP, tap in daily. Primetime dapping D White on the sideline. Raining Jayson, how it started, raising business, how we finished. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast. It's right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It is your team every day, and I got you covered every Monday through Friday, plus bonus podcasts like I did this weekend, so I'm still rolling. This is my 8th podcast in a row. I've lost count. Make sure you're subscribed. You can get every single one of them directly to your device. You can watch the show on YouTube. You can get into that comment section and have some fun, or maybe it's not fun, or maybe you just want to express your opinion, whatever it is, do it on the in the comment section there. If you're new, I'm John Karalis. I've been covering the Celtics for about 20 years. Now I'm doing it as a beat writer for Boston Sports Journal. And today we're going to try to figure out what the hell is wrong with the Boston Celtics. Today's show is brought to you by Prize Picks. Now's the perfect time to join. Download the app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA. Get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. That's right. No need to win to get the bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks. Run your game. It's a simple question, and I'm going to bring Tom Westerholm in here to discuss it. What's wrong with the Celtics? How, as I said at the beginning, is it one thing? Is it many things? Is it zero things? Tom, I don't know.
I think they're fine. I think they're rolling. I think this is the Celtics team that we all expected coming into the season. They're killing it. This is it.
Yep.
They're killing it.
This is it.
Yeah.
People wondered what they would be like if Ime Udoka was coach again, and here they are back to their 500 ways. Then they start 27-27 under Ime.
They did, yeah.
I mean, think about that for a second. Just put this out there. Remember, they did start 27-27 under Ime.
Yeah.
And they did go to the NBA Finals.
Yeah.
And so let's just throw 8-8 in their last 16. Might not be a big deal. We've seen this team be 500 for much, much, much longer and get to the finals.
It is the perfect Rorschach test, right? Because on the one hand, you could say, like, listen, we've seen them go 27-27 and still make the finals that year. We've seen that happen. They can totally pull out of this swan dive, which, I mean, they're 500. Like, they like we talk about them like they've lost 15 in a row, and it's like,
right.
Like, no, they're a 500 team that started off the season really, really well. So they're not even close to 500. They're good record.
Yeah.
So like you can look at it that way for sure. You can also look at it as like, that first Ime Udoka season really wasn't that long ago. So it's like, like obviously they've grown a lot and they won a championship and they made it, they did all this great stuff, but it's not like they're so far removed from that version of themselves either. Right. So it's like, it's kind of, I don't know, how negative, how positive do you want to be about the Celtics? Me personally, somebody who used to be very negative about the Celtics, to the point that there are podcast comments complaining about my negativity that anybody can go read. There's like, I am no longer feel that way about this team. I've seen them win a championship. I've seen them be one of the best basketball teams that I've watched, at least in a professional capacity. So I'm much more, go toward the side of like, they'll pull out of this dive, but it is worth remembering too, that this team is, there were darker times in this team's relatively recent history that aren't maybe as far back as a lot of people might kind of remember them.
Look, this is my number one thing here. I just default to some level of laziness that it's, I speak from some level of personal experience. I know what it's like.
Some level of personal experience and laziness.
Yes. I know what it's like to have been, an athlete a high level athlete and how much work it goes into it. And, to go play basketball and be in basketball shape, it takes a lot of work and and I also know that, hey, I don't feel like working out, and you get a little like laziness there. And all of a sudden, like God, but like, I can't believe I shrunk my pants. All my pants shrunk in the wash. I can't believe this. So outrageous. And so you fall into some bad habits. Now you can get back into those good habits very easily. You just go back and do all the hard work again. But if you get lazy again, that's the same stuff happens. And the problem is, and this is the fear we keep mentioning, it's just a little bit harder to get off the couch.
Yeah.
Each time you tack on that 15 pounds around the holidays, that January gym membership, man, it's just like you used to go on January 2nd. Then you start going on January 12th. Now it's coming up on January 22nd, and you're like, oh, okay, I better go back. It's just a little bit harder as you get along. And so my number one thing here is just looking at eye test. It's just like, guys, don't fall into this for too long, because you're going to have to snap out of whatever it is.
Yeah.
Whether you're relaxing, whether you're distracted, whether you're just in you're going to have to figure this out fairly soon, because the end of the season is coming quicker than you think.
Yeah.
We're already halfway through, and then you've got to be ready, and you want to be in a full sprint getting into the playoffs, right? Like, you don't want to be just starting in the play. You want to get into that full sprint getting into the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you don't want to kind of have proved to yourself, so, like the first half of the season, right? The first quarter of the season, the Celtics were so good that they, jumped out to this record that is now kind of sustaining them, right? Like they're 8-8 in their last whatever, but it doesn't matter too much at this stage, as long as, to your point, they get off that couch and they get, get back in the proverbial gym. I know they're in the gym every day, but they get back in the proverbial gym and, kind of get back to the way things looked. They have more than enough time to do that. Their record is not suffering so much that they're going to be in any kind of trouble as long as they do those things. But that first start of the season, we talked about this before, but all that talk from Joe Mazzulla about having the target and, on your forehead and all this stuff like that, like they did at the start of the season. And it was almost like they kind of proved to themselves, like, yep, we still got it. We still got it. We know how to do this. We're good to go. We can definitely win another championship this year. And totally, absolutely they can. And they, have every opportunity to do that. But the further away, the more that you get away from that, as the regular season comes to an end, as the playoffs, get closer, you don't be in a place where you proved to yourself what you needed to prove to yourself in November. Like, you need to then prove it again, keep proving it to everyone. Like, yes, we are still a championship team come February, come March, most importantly, start, come April, come May, come June. That's when it really matters. And you don't want to kind of, you don't want to have kind of dug yourself kind of so that it's hard to get back out of there.
It is very much how I got through college. Start a semester, gung-ho. All right, I'm ready to go. Okay, figure out exactly what is it going to take to get a good grade in the semester. Okay, gotcha. Oh, I don't have to show up for all these classes? I'm out. What's the bare minimum I need to do? And then last couple of weeks, I'm like, all right, let me make up.
Go time.
Let's go. That's not the best way to do it. Do not follow my path through college required courses as a way to get back to the NBA finals.
See, what I learned just now is that every college journalism major listening to this now knows that if I skip classes and just try hard at the end, I eventually become a successful Celtics beat writer and podcaster. That's what I'm getting from this.
That's right. Well, yeah. I wanted to be the next great Sports Center anchor, and now I'm podcasting from my basement. So that's the lesson for you if you want to take one. All right, let's dive into this stuff because I pulled numbers and I'm not even sure the numbers mean much. The Celtics are losing in a lot of different ways. What does it mean when? What does that mean? We'll talk about that when we come back. Today's show is brought to you by Prize Picks. You want to download that Prize Picks app because it's going to get you the real money action while watching your favorite NBA stars. Whether you're a diehard fan, which I assume you are if you're listening to this podcast, or maybe you just like some friendly competition, Prize Picks makes it fun, easy for you to turn your basketball knowledge into cash. Works like this. Pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. If you think LeBron's going to drop 30 points, or maybe Luka, when he comes back, is going to start dropping like 8 assists. Maybe you want Jayson Tatum rebounds, 10 or more. Prize Picks lets you make your predictions and put your money where your mouth is in just 60 seconds. Prize Picks is it's just a blast. You can use their flex play option. So even if a pick doesn't hit, you can still double your money. Plus, once you hit, you get your money fast, sometimes as quick as 15 minutes. It's really the best way to keep the game exciting. Now's the perfect time to join. Download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. There's no need to win. You just got to play. So get that first $5 lineup in, and you will get that bonus guaranteed. Prize Picks. Run your game. Thanks for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Make sure you download the Locked On Celtics newsletter. It's available at LockedOnDaily.com. Go there, click on the Locked On Celtics logo, sign up for the newsletter, and directly to your inbox, you'll get Celtics, NBA, fantasy coverage, all right there Monday through Friday, plus links to some of the best Celtics content out there. It's all at LockedOnDaily.com. Sign up for that daily Locked On Celtics newsletter. The Celtics lost to the Atlanta Hawks in a very unique way. Mm-hmm. Drew Holiday basically got CTE for 30 seconds and forgot what was happening. Honestly, whatever he said after the game, I don't care. He completely he botched the play with 18 seconds left with the turnover. And
when that happened, you knew it was going to overtime, right? Like that just like that there was like this I don't know, there was this feeling of just like, here we go. I've seen this. I know what this looks like. Yeah.
So everything happens. I 100% believe that Holiday, while Jayson Tatum was taking those free throws, was probably like replaying that something in his head or something. He was not focused on what Jayson Tatum was doing. And this is your lesson. When we talk about you got to put that last play behind you, no matter how bad it was, and focus on the now, it's because of this. Because I guarantee you, I'm disregarding what he said. I guarantee you he was zoned out, and then he saw Trae Young. He's like, oh, we're fouling. Because they were fouling because they were up 3. And he's like, oh, we're fouling. And he did, because that was clearly an intentional foul. And it's like
intentional foul.
Very obviously. And so he just screwed up. It happens, but it's just another different way for the Celtics to lose. And this is why when we try to break down what's wrong, I don't know that any one thing is wrong, because if one thing was wrong, the losses would all look the same. Look, the last 8 losses, Atlanta, Drew Holiday falls apart. Toronto, second half, complete disintegration. Jaylen Brown, not even present in that game. Sacramento tied going into the fourth quarter. They can't hit a thing. Shooting disappears. OKC, gorgeous first half, horrible second half. They tried to drive too much. They forced the issue there. Indiana, horrible defense and bad shooting after a huge win over Indy. Philadelphia, complete no defense, 44 minutes without a steal. Completely different. Like, this is another completely different thing. Orlando lost a physical rock fight of a game where they implode in the third quarter. Chicago outshot them. They got outgunned against Chicago. What is what's the single pattern between all of those, except for, God, they're shooting. Their shooting has been the only thing that in all of these, you're like, oh, and they had this quarter where they couldn't hit a thing, or they had this half where they couldn't hit a thing, or a whole game where they couldn't hit a thing. So the only conclusion that I can draw is when they lose, it's because they can't shoot. And all the other stuff seems to be somehow a byproduct. We can't hit, so we have this quarter where we lose our minds. We can't hit, and we try to overcompensate, or all this other stuff like that. That to me is the single overarching theme of 8-8 in their last 16.
Yeah. I mean, I think the thing that, because obviously there's always going to be times where, you make shots, you miss shots. That's just how life is. That's how basketball is. I think the thing that seems to be so striking is that, if you're looking for a theme, it's like the Celtics, when they start missing recently, they just keep missing, and it spreads like some kind of, like a spill, like it just keeps steeping out, and like everybody's doing it. Everybody's missing. Maybe you got one guy on the team who goes like, 3 for 7 or something. And then like, he's the one that makes it so that you're shooting 26% instead of, 18%. Like, they'll have these stretches seem to just kind of go on. Like, one guy sees another guy miss and decides, all right, now I'm going to, take charge of things. And that's not really what they need. They just need, there's something about the way that they miss in bunches recently to me that's been the most striking thing, that you get these games, like so many games. And obviously, then they beat Orlando and they shoot, somewhere like above 40%. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was above 40% from three. And then it's right back to another 26% game where they were in it because the Hawks were like 24%. Right. So it's like the 3-point shooting just deserts them for these stretches that just, like, I don't know, the torpedo their whole offense. If you're looking for something that I think would make a huge difference for this team right now, it's just be able to pull out of these stretches that, that sink your entire offensive, just all of your offensive numbers get just demolished by, like 2 quarters straight of everybody's missing everything, or 4 quarters straight in some games.
Okay, let's go back to that Chicago loss that started this whole thing. 25% shooting. Yep. Loss against Orlando, 24.2. Loss against Philly, they shot 41%. But they couldn't stop anybody. So that's different. Yep. Indy lost 29.6% from 3. OKC lost 19.6.
That would be one of the 4 quarter ones.
Yes. Yeah. Sacramento 26.8. Toronto 34.8, Atlanta 28.8. So only one game where they shot well. Everything else below average, or like god awful. Like that's so.
Although let's be fair, that Raptors game is actually becoming closer and closer to their season average as this stretch continues. Right. But yeah,
right. Well, that and it, look. In their, I broke it out here. In their wins over these last 8 wins, their effective field goal percentage is 59.8%. That's 3rd in the league in their 8 wins. In their 8 losses, their effective field goal percentage is 48.6, 25th in the league.
Yeah.
And that jives with in their first 26 games, their effective field goal percentage in wins was 57.4. And in their losses, it's 51.8. So there's a 5+% drop. It's not as bad, but that tells you that 51.8 was in their 5 losses. In their losses, these last 8 losses, 48.6. It's even worse. It's so much worse. The difference between their wins and losses is like 11%. Versus in their wins and losses before this stretch, was less than 6%. So that tells you a lot. Let's look into some other stats. An interesting one that actually surprises me. I think it's counterintuitive to what I thought would be the case. I'll tell you that stat when I come back. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book, and from the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. That's $300 to keep the action going. So if you bet on the Buffalo Bills, congratulations, you would have won $300 in bonus bets because you would have hit that first $5 bet. FanDuel is a super easy app to navigate. Variety of bets keeps every game exciting. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. No waiting around for your winnings. Whether you're betting on your favorite team or looking to add some extra excitement to the playoffs, FanDuel has you covered. And the app has the tools you need to gamble responsibly so you can set your limits, set your budget, so you're only playing with your disposable income. That's all you should be doing and having fun, and that's it. If you have a bad day, you set your limit, boom, shut it down until you get paid again and start it back up again. Visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make the playoffs unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Go check out Locked On NBA. I'm on Fridays, Locked On NBA Game Night with Jake Madison. So Fridays we'll have the Thursday night games covered. It's a fun way to recap the whole league. You get caught up every night. It's a 7-day-a-week podcast. Plus, in the afternoons, you get a debate show style podcast. So two podcasts on that feed. Find it where you found this podcast. All right, Tom Westerholm. An interesting little stat. I tried to break things down because I'm trying to figure out what is at the heart of this. I don't think there's any statistical thing at the heart of this. Like when they're playing well, they win, they score, right? In their wins in these last 8 games, last 16 games, in their 8 wins, when they win, their offensive rating is 129.1. That's best in the league in that stretch. And their defense is 105.2. So their net rating is 23.9 in these 8 wins. So remember that number here, because when we look at the 8 losses, like, oh my God, what is wrong with them? Because their offense drops to 105.5 from 129.1. That offense completely disintegrates. The defense, 114.4. It's not like when you lose, you're going to give up points, right? So
yeah, right.
I'm not, but comparably, that's 3rd in the NBA. So it's not like their defense becomes the worst defense in the NBA, even though we've seen it play like the worst defense in the NBA. So again, the offense completely craters. This is an offensive driven thing. And here's the interesting thing. In pace, in their wins, 94.4. So they're getting 94.4 shots per 100 possessions. That's what pace measures. Pace measures the shots per 100 possessions. Theoretically, when you're getting more shots, you're playing with a better pace. You're moving the ball. You're getting out into transition, offensive rebounding. All that stuff adds up. So they're playing at 94.4 in wins, 98.5 in losses. So they're playing at a little faster pace in losses. And that goes with the first 26 games. In their wins, their pace is 97.9. In their losses, it's 103. So playing at a faster pace has been bad for them this season, weirdly.
Yeah, I guess to some degree that does line up with the eye test, right? Because like what we've seen when their offense looks its best is the ball moving, right? Like around, but not in transition. Like when the offense looks its best, it looks like that half court, like Spursy, like drive, kick.
They're not a fast-paced team.
No, yeah,
they are a set-it half-court team.
And the other two things that jive with that, right? Number one, Jayson Tatum is one of, if not the best isolation player in the league at like 1.2 or whatever he's at, or I think 1.15 last time I looked. And also they have a bunch of guys who are absolute killers in post-ups, right?
Mhm.
None of that is fast-paced basketball. That's like that's half-court basketball. And the Celtics are really good at that. So, those elements kind of line up with that.
So now when you add that, it's surprising because you think that play faster.
Yeah.
You should, but this starts to make sense when you say, wow, they're bad shooting. It's not just, this isn't just, the Celtics rely on threes, and then when they don't hit them, they're going to lose. Everywhere in the NBA, if you are crappy from three, you're probably going to lose. Like that's a universal thing now. But for the Celtics, they're not a fast-paced team. They play at some of the slowest pace in the NBA. That 94.4 in their wins in the last 16 games is 28th in the league. Their wins over the first 26 games, 25th in the league. Overall, they are 20th in their first 26. They were 20th in the league. So even when they were their absolute best, they're a bottom third, like way at the bottom when it comes to pace. So if you are a half-court team that can't hit its threes, you're not making that up in transition, right? Like if you're not a transition team, you could be like, wow, we shot 22%, but we got 60 points in the paint because we got layup after layup after layup because we force a lot of turnovers. Like the Thunder can go and force a ton of turnovers and get a bunch of layups. And yeah, maybe they don't always shoot it great, but they can not shoot it great and win because they get a ton in transition, and they're getting the volume. When you get a lot in transition, when you get a lot of steals, you're putting up more field goal attempts. That's why your pace goes up. And so the Celtics either have to just figure out the mental block, just start hitting shots, or they need to focus on playing at that faster pace and making up for it by playing, just trying to up their defense, up their turnovers that caused, and try to make up for it by adding a lot of, putting up 100 shots and adding like transition buckets and points off of turnovers and all of that. That I just, if those are your two options, I just know who the Celtics are.
Yeah.
The Celtics are going to have to, this is the end of the story here. They are going to have to hit some shots.
Yeah.
And that is, to me, the absolute end conclusion.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I also think it's almost a shame that that's the end conclusion, because when you look at the Celtics personnel, it would be kind of fun if this group became a group that was just like trying really hard to force turnovers. If they was just like hyper aggressive, like you got Drew Holiday, Derek White, Jaylen Brown, Jayson Tatum. Like those are some pretty great defenders when they really crank it up. Like that would be fun to watch. But to your point though, it's like this is how the Celtics have played under Joe Mazzulla, and this is how, very importantly, the Celtics have won a championship under Joe Mazzulla. So like we know it works. They just no, you're right. Like you just have to make shots. That's what it's going to come down to. They're not going to change the way they play. They shouldn't change the way they play. I don't think. I like you won a title. Like that gives you at least one full season to try to keep trying to play the way that won you a title less than 12 months ago.
So I think it just comes down to the same thing that I keep saying. Like people will ask, what is wrong here? There's no one thing that's wrong. Like there's no, people will say, well, it's the coaching. It's not the coaching, because when they do what he says, it works, right? When they're trying to do what he says, it works. And let me tell you something. The end of that game was coached very well. That 2-for-1, that saving your time, that was exactly the end of game situation. What I tell you is perfectly executed. They saved their timeouts. They got the 2-for-1. They had it. They even at the end when they didn't use their timeout when when the Hawks went up, I think was it 3, they inbounded the ball to save their timeout because they knew that the Hawks were going to foul because they were up 3. So the Celtics, they did a great job. Jaylen rolled the ball in. They got it to Jayson. He got down there and got fouled with a couple of seconds left. A couple of seconds went off the clock. So they had time to we've let Jayson Tatum off the hook for that loss, for not hitting that second free throw, by the way.
Yeah.
If he had hit that free throw, different story. Also, I think Sam Hauser, side note, just kind of like slinking out the side door because he missed that dunk, which he was very upset about missing that dunk. But it's like, if you had just hit that dunk, we wouldn't have seen this whole scenario play out. But anyway.
Yeah, anytime nobody's talking about you after you go 0 for 7, that's
you're
slinking right away. You got away with it.
Yep. But they didn't use their timeout there. They used it at the end. They tried to get it like it worked perfectly coaching wise. So it's not the coach, it's not the style, it's not the threes necessarily. It's just simply, I don't think they're running the offense very well. I don't think the shots that they've generated over these 16 games have always been the best.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think some guys are just in prolonged slumps. And we're not seeing, and Jayson said it in the postgame last night, we're not seeing those run stopping shots that the Celtics have tended to hit. They're not hitting the run extending shots. They're not hitting the back breaking shots. Those are the ones that you're like, come on. And it's guys that can hit them. So that's it. Like, ultimately, it's just run the offense, run it well. Don't be as lazy as you've been. Just run the offense. I saw somebody tweeted out a stat where the Celtics are like last in passes in their losses. That says a lot because, like, if you're not passing the ball, you're not running the offense well. That's not scheme. That's just, guys, move the ball, pass it, stop isolating as much as you are.
Yeah.
And that to me is the end of it, which my final word is, to me, that's all encouraging because nothing's broken. It's just, you got to do it. So it's discouraging that you're telling these guys, like, you just got to go do it. But, it's the middle of January and, like, I think it's just go do it and they'll be fine. Nothing's broken.
Yeah. No, I'm largely agree with that. I think I really do think it just mostly boils down to just the missed shots, right?
Yeah.
Like that, like, it's just, I think you'll see if they start to make shots, you'll see some of the effort pick back up. You'll see some of guys and that's not a great, that's not like a huge, like a huge saving grace for them or like a feather in their cap or anything like that. It's like, no, you should be trying hard anyway, like no matter what, but like, is what it is, like I think if they stop missing shots, you'll see more, better defense. You'll see more ball movement. You'll see guys who are more engaged. Like unfortunately, that's how basketball works sometimes. You just like, you catch a bad vibe from missing a bunch of shots and, your body language goes down, your effort goes down, and as a result, your execution goes down. So like, it's just hoops. That's regular season, especially in the regular season. That's just kind of basketball. And I think, I'm not going to say that there's no reason to be concerned, but I think that there's no reason to panic at this stage. It's like,
for sure.
Have a mild amount of concern. I think that's fair. I think it's like, okay, so if these guys are missing shots, they could be in trouble in a playoff series. Yeah, for sure. But that's not a reason to panic. That was also the case last year. And this is a team of now champions who have a lot of really good players. So, I don't know. They might win. They might not. You don't win a championship every year. Then sometimes you do. So, there's sports for you.
There you go. For people on YouTube, shout out to Bear in the back, just chilling on the
Still
chair
hanging
there.
on. She had a couple of health scares this year. Still kicking. We're very
love
good
Bear.
girl.
Bear is the best girl, and she's just chilling. is doing one of my favorite dog poses, sitting on the chair with one paw up and the face facing the camera. She is fully getting that camera time right now. She knows where the camera is. Tom, appreciate you hopping on, man.
Appreciate you, man.
So this is like a great, very dog friendly show. Very, very dog friendly show. Thanks for listening, everybody. I really do appreciate you being here. Thanks for watching on the YouTube page. However you consume the show, I love that you're doing it. Thank you so much for making the show part of your Celtics journey. They'll get through it. I promise you, they will get through it. They will figure this out. It's really not as bad as it feels. But I will be here every step of the way to try to figure it out with you. So make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts. Watch that show on YouTube. Get into the comment section. Share your thoughts there. There's a really great Celtics community in the Locked On Celtics comment section. And then I would love it if you shared the podcast and told everybody they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.